They said he was untouchable, the ghost, Seoul's Mafia Lord who'd never left a trace in 5 years of ruthless control. She was unstoppable, the hunter, the FBI's deadliest agent who'd never failed to bring down a target in 6 years of perfect kills. When the Bureau sent their most relentless operative to catch a man who never leaves a trace, everyone expected a quick arrest. What they got was far more dangerous. A game, an obsession. A collision between two people who'd never lost until they met each other. Before we dive into this story of duty, desire, and a love that would shatter two worlds that were never meant to collide, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment and tell me, when two legends face off, who breaks first? The one who can't be caught, or the one who never misses? Now let's begin. The FBI private jet touched down at Seoul Air Base just after dawn. Not the commercial airport, the military base. That alone told you everything about who was on board. Nadia Brooks descended the stairs with the kind of confidence that didn't need to announce itself. Light caramel skin glowing in the early morning sun, straight black hair pulled into a sleek ponytail, navy blazer tailored perfectly over dark jeans. She moved like someone who'd never questioned whether she belonged anywhere. Because she always did. A black SUV waited on the tarmac. Agent Ryan Torres leaned against it, all Hollywood smile and expensive suit that somehow still looked cheap. Agent Brooks, welcome to Seoul. He extended his hand. She shook it once, firm, professional, then let go. Where's the office? Ryan blinked. Don't you want to drop your bags? Get settled? It's been a long flight. The office, Agent Torres. I didn't fly 14 hours to sightsee. Her Brooklyn accent sharpened the words into something that wasn't quite rude but definitely wasn't friendly. Ryan's smile faltered. Right. Straight to business. I like that. He opened the car door. Though I should warn you, 3 agents tried catching the ghost before you. Didn't end well for any of them. Nadia slid into the back seat, didn't look at him as she answered. Then they weren't good enough. I am. It wasn't arrogance, it was fact, and they both knew it. The city blurred past the windows. Neon signs in Hangul, morning traffic, the smell of coffee and something fried drifting through the vents. Seoul, 10 million people. One of them was her target. You really think you can catch him? Ryan asked, watching her in the rearview mirror. I don't think, Agent Torres. I know. She pulled out her tablet, already reviewing files. That's why they sent me. Ryan laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. The hunter. That's what they call you, right? Never missed a target. 43 cases, 43 convictions. She didn't look up from the screen. Let's make it 44. The legal attaché office occupied 2 floors in the U.S. Embassy building. Nadia walked into the conference room filled with maps, surveillance photos, and frustrated agents who'd hunted Ji-hun for years with nothing to show. At exactly 9 a.m., no coffee, no small talk, just ready. SAC Jennifer Walsh stood at the head of the table. 50-something steel gray hair, eyes that had seen every kind of criminal and weren't impressed by any of them. She'd been hunting the ghost for 5 years. The fact that he was still free was personal. Agent Brooks. Walsh's voice could cut diamond. Welcome to the impossible assignment. Let's be clear about something. You're here because you have a perfect record and we need that reputation. But don't think that makes you special. Kang Ji-hun is smarter, richer, and more dangerous than anyone you've faced. Understood, ma'am. Walsh clicked the remote. The screen behind her lit up with a face that made the room go silent. Kang Ji-hun. Even in a surveillance photo, he commanded attention. Sharp features, intense dark eyes, hair falling forward in a way that looked careless but probably wasn't. A scar along his jawline, not hidden, almost displayed. Like a warning. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than most people's yearly salary and looked directly at the camera with an expression that said he knew someone would be studying this photo someday. Kang Ji-hun, age 33, Oxford-educated, speaks 5 languages, runs Kang Industries, a legitimate tech conglomerate worth $300 million. On paper, he's a respectable CEO. In reality, he's the head of the most sophisticated criminal organization in Asia. More photos flashed across the screen. Crime scenes, bodies covered with sheets, burned buildings, witnesses with terrified eyes. He took over 5 years ago after his father was assassinated in a power struggle. First thing he did? Eliminated everyone involved in the hit. 12 people dead in one night. Clean and professional. Since then, he's been untouchable. Never been charged with anything. Never left evidence. Witnesses disappear or recant. He owns judges, prosecutors, half the Korean National Police Agency. Walsh pulled up a network diagram. His operations: cybercrime, art smuggling, cryptocurrency laundering, political corruption. Conservative estimate: he's responsible for over 100 deaths, personally involved in at least a dozen. Family? Nadia asked, studying the diagram. One sister, Kang Seo-ah, age 24. Art gallery curator. We've investigated her thoroughly. She appears completely clean. Either doesn't know about the family business or deserves an Oscar. Ji-hun keeps her sheltered. That's his only known weakness. He'll do anything to protect her. Nadia memorized the sister's face. Everyone had a weakness. Even ghosts. Here's your cover. Walsh pulled up a new file. Nadia Johnson, art consultant from Christie's, New York. Georgetown degree. 3 years in their Hong Kong office before transferring stateside. We've secured you an invitation to a charity gala tomorrow night at the Shilla Hotel. It's an art auction, one of his money laundering fronts. Get close, observe, gather intelligence. Do not engage directly. Do not blow your cover. We need to build a case slowly. What if he makes me? Nadia asked. He won't. You're good. Walsh's expression hardened. But I need you to understand something. The last agent who got close to Kang? Martinez. We found her in the Han River. Kim's family was threatened. Her 6-year-old daughter. She's in witness protection now. Won't even talk to her own parents. Parker quit the bureau entirely. Moved to Alaska. Won't say what happened. This man destroys people, Agent Brooks. Not just physically. Psychologically. He gets in your head, makes you question everything, makes you see the world his way. He won't get in my head. Nadia's voice was flat, certain. I know exactly what he is. Pray. The other agents in the room exchanged glances. They'd heard this confidence before. From Martinez, from Kim, from Parker. But Nadia Brooks wasn't them. And she was about to prove it. 7 miles away, in a penthouse office overlooking Gangnam, Kang Ji-hun stood at floor-to-ceiling windows watching the city wake up. His city. Every street, every building, every shadow. He knew them all. His phone rang. Private line. Only 3 people had this number. Speak. They brought in reinforcements. The voice was distorted, electronic. His FBI mole, identities so protected even Ji-hun didn't know who they were. Just that they'd been feeding him information for 3 years and hadn't been wrong yet. Agent Nadia Brooks, they call her the Hunter. Ji-hun moved to his desk, opened his laptop, pulled up the encrypted file that appeared on his screen. And there she was. The photo was official FBI headshot. Professional, serious, no smile. But even in that sterile image, she was striking. Light caramel skin, sharp cheekbones, eyes that looked like they could see straight through lies. Beautiful in a way that suggested she'd probably punched someone for underestimating her because of it. He clicked through her file, reading faster than most people could process. Nadia Brooks, age 29, born Brooklyn, New York. Parents: deceased, killed in crossfire, age 8, raised in state facility. Best friend: deceased, killed by organized crime, age 16. Education: criminal justice, John Jay College, FBI Academy, top of class, joined bureau age 23. Record: 43 cases, 43 convictions. Specialization: organized crime, trafficking, corruption. Known for relentless pursuit. Unconventional methods, perfect success rate. Partner: Marcus Chen, deceased 18 months prior, killed during undercover operation investigating Marco Valenti organization. Subject went rogue following partner's death, hunted down and arrested every individual connected to incident within 3 months. Methods controversial. Result: successful, promoted, and reassigned to Seoul. Ji-hun leaned back, studied her photo again. The hunter. They'd sent their best. The door opened. Shin Tae-young entered without knocking. The only person who could. 31. Loyal since childhood. More brother than employee. His right hand in every sense. Hyung, is it true? FBI sent another agent? Yes. Ji-hun turned the laptop so Tae-young could see. Her. Tae-young studied the screen, frowned. She's young. She's perfect. Ji-hun's voice held something that might have been respect. Look at her record. 6 years, never failed. Every target caught. She's not here to observe. She's here to hunt. And she thinks she's going to catch me. Should we eliminate her? Before she becomes a problem? No. Ji-hun looked back at Nadia's photo. At those eyes that promised she'd never stop. Let's see if she lives up to her reputation. This is dangerous, Hyung. You're playing games when we should be... When should we be what? Boring. Predictable. Ji-hun stood, walked back to the windows. I've been the ghost for 5 years. Do you know how exhausting it is? Everyone too scared to even try. The police bought. The prosecutors owned. The NIS looking the other way. Where's the challenge in that? You want her to come after you? I want to see if she's actually good enough to be interesting. He smiled, and it was sharp and dangerous. Besides, we have bigger problems. Marco Valenti is moving on Seoul. The Italian wants to absorb our operations or burn them down. I need to know if the hunter is a threat or a potential asset. You can't turn an FBI agent. I don't need to turn her. I just need her to see the truth. Ji-hun's expression shifted, became something calculated. Find out everything about her. Real details, not just the file. I want to know what made her become the hunter. What drives her. What scares her. What she dreams about. Tae-young shook his head but pulled out his phone. You're going to regret this. Probably. Ji-hun looked back at Nadia's photo one more time. But it's going to be interesting. And for the first time in 5 years, he felt something other than the weight of his father's crown. He felt curious. 2 hunters were about to meet. Both had studied each other. Both thought they knew exactly how this would play out. Both were already wrong. Because from the moment their eyes locked across that gala, nothing would go according to plan. Keep watching. Because what happens next changes both of their lives forever. The Shilla Hotel glittered like something out of a dream. Or a nightmare, depending on how you looked at it. Crystal chandeliers catching light like trapped stars. Marble floors so polished you could see your reflection. Seoul's elite moving through the space in designer everything. Dior, Chanel, Tom Ford. Conversations flowing in Korean, English, Mandarin, the universal language of money. Nadia stepped out of the black town car and felt every eye turn. She'd chosen her armor carefully. A deep burgundy gown that hugged every curve of her thick athletic frame, the kind of dress that said she knew exactly how good she looked and didn't need your validation. Her straight black hair fell in sleek waves past her shoulders, pinned on one side with a gold clip that caught the light. Diamond earrings borrowed from the FBI's undercover fund. She looked expensive, powerful. Like she belonged in rooms like this. She did. Inside, a server offered champagne. She accepted a glass she wouldn't drink and moved through the crowd with practiced ease. Nadia Johnson, art consultant, Christie's, New York. Smile, shake hands, laugh at jokes that weren't funny. Compliment someone's dress. All while her eyes scanned the room for one face. And then she felt it. That prickling sensation at the back of her neck. The instinct that had kept her alive through 6 years of undercover work, through shootouts and stakeouts and moments when everything went sideways. Someone was watching her. She turned slowly, scanning faces, and there. Kang Ji-hun stood near the bar, surrounded by businessmen and politicians who all leaned slightly toward him like plants toward the sun. But his attention wasn't on them. It was entirely, completely, dangerously on her. Their eyes locked across the crowded room. For a moment that stretched like pulled taffy, neither moved, neither looked away. Just assessed each other with the kind of intensity that made the air between them feel charged. He was taller than she'd expected from photos. 6'2" at least, broad shoulders filling out a black suit that probably cost more than her car. His dark hair fell forward in that careless way that looked effortless but probably took time. Sharp features, that scar along his jaw. And eyes. God, those eyes, that looked at her like he could see straight through the designer dress and the borrowed diamonds and the fake name to whatever was underneath. He smiled, slight, knowing, dangerous, and started walking toward her. Nadia's pulse kicked up, but her expression stayed neutral. This wasn't the plan. She was supposed to observe from a distance, gather intel, stay invisible. But apparently, the ghost had other ideas. He stopped exactly the right distance away, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive, dark, something with cedar and smoke. Far enough to be socially appropriate. Perfect calibration. "You're new." His voice was deep, lightly accented with British inflection from his Oxford years, each word pronounced like he was used to people hanging on them. "To Seoul. You're new to Seoul." "I'm sorry?" Nadia kept her expression pleasantly confused, playing the role. "Do I know you?" "Not yet." Those eyes traveled over her face, not leering, not sexual, just studying. Like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. "But you will. I make it a point to know everyone in this room. And you. I don't know. Maybe I'm just forgettable." "No." Simple, certain. "You're not." The way he said it made something flutter in her chest that she immediately crushed. Focus. "Nadia Johnson," she offered, extending her hand, playing her role perfectly. He took it. His grip was firm, warm, and he held on just a fraction too long, testing her, watching her reaction. Nadia Johnson, art consultant from Christie's. He still hadn't let go of her hand. Georgetown undergraduate, specialized in East Asian art. 3 years in the Hong Kong office before transferring to New York last year. Impressive credentials. Her blood went cold, but her face stayed warm, friendly, mildly surprised. "You've done your homework." "I always do." He finally released her hand. "When someone interesting appears in my city, I make it my business to learn about them." "Your city?" He gestured to the room, the building, the glittering view of Seoul through the floor-to-ceiling windows. "My city." The arrogance should have annoyed her. Instead, it was magnetic. Like gravity. Like standing too close to the edge of something and feeling the pull. "And you are?" she asked, even though she knew exactly who he was. "Kang. Ji-hun Kang." He tilted his head slightly. "I'm on the board of this charity. which means I get to meet interesting people, like art consultants who appear at auctions they weren't originally invited to. Damn. He knew the invitation was fake, which meant, "Tell me, Ms. Johnson." He moved slightly closer, lowered his voice like they were sharing a secret. "Which piece here catches your eye?" Nadia followed his gesture to a nearby sculpture, abstract, brutal, beautiful. Lee Bull. Violence and grace, frozen in metal. "That one," she said, committing to the role even though every instinct screamed danger. "The tension is extraordinary, like watching a fight you know will end badly but you can't look away." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise? Approval? Gone too fast to identify. Most people here prefer the paintings. Pretty. Landscapes. Safe. But you see the violence underneath. He studied her face like he was trying to memorize it. "Why is that, I wonder?" "Maybe because beauty and brutality aren't opposites," Nadia said, meeting his eyes directly. "They're often the same thing wearing different masks." The air between them felt electric, dangerous, like touching a live wire and not pulling back. "You know," he said quietly, "I've been to 100 of these events. Had 1,000 conversations just like this. No one has ever said anything that interesting. Maybe you've been talking to the wrong people? Maybe I have." He smiled, and it was predatory and charming in equal measure. "We're going to be very good friends, Ms. Johnson, or very dangerous enemies. Which would you prefer?" "I haven't decided yet." His smile widened. "But I'm looking forward to finding out." Someone called his name, an older man in an expensive suit, waving him over urgently. Business? Always business. Ji-hun glanced that direction, nodded, then looked back at Nadia, and leaned in close enough that she felt his breath against her ear. "Welcome to Seoul, Agent Brooks." He straightened, took her hand one more time, brought it to his lips in a gesture that should have felt old-fashioned, but instead felt like a brand, then walked away, leaving her standing there, frozen, every alarm in her head screaming. He knew exactly who she was, and he'd just turned this into a game. Around her, the gala continued, music playing, people laughing, champagne flowing. But Nadia stood perfectly still, her mind racing, her training kicking in even as her pulse hammered. Her face showed exactly what it needed to. Controlled shock. Eyes slightly widened, breath caught. A moment of frozen panic quickly buried under professional composure. The perfect performance of someone whose cover just got blown. Perfect. Because that's exactly what she wanted him to see. Midnight in Gangnam. Ji-hun's penthouse office was dark, except for the glow of multiple computer screens showing security footage from the gala. He sat at his desk, whiskey in hand, replaying the moment he'd said Agent Brooks over and over. Watching Nadia's face in high definition, the micro-expressions that most people would miss but he'd been trained since childhood to read. The widening of her eyes, just a fraction. The breath that caught in her throat. The moment where her professional mask slipped and something underneath showed through. Surprise, calculation, maybe even fear. Then the recovery. Quick, professional, burying it under composure. But he'd seen it, that split second where she hadn't expected him to know. Ji-hun smiled, took a sip of whiskey. Excellent whiskey. Japanese. Yamazaki 25-year, the kind that costs more than most people's monthly rent and tastes like victory. "You were right," Taeyang said from the doorway. "She's good. Very good." Ji-hun paused the footage on Nadia's face. "Look at that recovery. Most agents would have pulled their weapon or run or frozen completely. She processed, adapted, and maintained her cover in under 3 seconds. Impressive. She also knows you know now. That makes her dangerous. That makes her interesting." Ji-hun rewound, watched the moment again. She came here thinking she could go undercover, play art consultant, get close without me knowing. I just showed her she's transparent, that I'm 3 steps ahead. Now she's on the defensive, off balance. What if she reports back and they pull her out? She won't. Ji-hun stood, walked to the windows overlooking Seoul, his city, every light a life he influenced, controlled, or could destroy if necessary. The hunter doesn't quit. That's what makes her the hunter. She's not going back to Washington to admit she got made on day 1. She's going to double down. Come at me harder. That's what you want? That's what I need. He turned back to the screens, to Nadia's frozen face. We have Marco. Valenti moving on Seoul. I need to know if she's a threat or if she can be useful. You can't turn an FBI agent, Hyung. I don't need to turn her. Ji-hun's smile was sharp. I just need her to see what's really happening here. See past the story she's been told. And for that, I need her close. Engaged. Playing the game. And if she arrests you? Then she's better than I thought. He raised his glass to the frozen image of Nadia. Either way, this just got interesting. Let's see what the hunter does next. On the screen, Nadia's controlled shock stared back at him. He'd rattled her, put her on notice, shown her he was in control. Or so he thought. Nadia's apartment in Itaewon was small, a serviced unit with functional furniture, no personality, nothing that said anyone actually lived there. Perfect for temporary assignments. Perfect for someone who didn't put down roots. She sat at a small desk she'd turned into a home office, laptop open, coffee going cold beside her. On the screen, security footage from the gala. The FBI had cameras everywhere, even at events they weren't officially monitoring. One of the perks of being a global law enforcement agency. She pulled up the moment Ji-hun had approached her, watched it once from the FBI's angle, then again, and again. Watching herself play the role, the pleasant surprise when he knew her cover name, the subtle concern when he revealed he'd researched her background, the careful interest in his attention, then the moment he'd said her real name. Nadia watched her own face go through the perfect performance of controlled shock, eyes widening just enough, breath catching visibly, the micro-expression of panic before the professional mask slammed back down. She'd practiced that reaction in front of a mirror for 3 years, perfected it during undercover training, used it a dozen times in the field when suspects made her or covers got blown. It was her favorite trick. Make them think they'd surprised you. Make them think they were ahead. Give them that moment of victory where they felt smart, felt powerful, felt in control. Because that's when they got sloppy. On screen, Ji-hun's expression showed exactly what she'd wanted to see. Satisfaction, pride, the look of someone who'd just won a round and knew it. Nadia's serious, focused expression cracked. Her lips curved into a smile. Not the professional smile she'd worn at the gala. Not the pleasant mask she showed the world. This one was different. Dangerous. Victorious. He actually thought that surprised me, she said out loud to the empty apartment. Her voice held something between amusement and satisfaction. Look at his eyes. So proud. He thinks he caught me off guard. She rewound, watched again. Watched Ji-hun lean in, whisper her real name. Watch her reaction with those intense eyes. Exactly what I wanted, she murmured. Leaned back in her chair, took a sip of cold coffee. They're all the same, these bosses. So confident in their own intelligence. So sure they're 3 steps ahead. I almost thought Kang might actually be different. Disappointing. She pulled up a different file on her laptop. The one no one at the FBI knew about. The one she'd been building for 8 weeks before she even landed in Seoul. Complete psychological profile of Kang Ji-hun. Every case he'd been connected to. Every pattern in his behavior. Every predictable move he'd make when threatened. including this one. The immediate assertion of dominance, the flex of power, the "I know who you really are" reveal designed to put her on the defensive. Textbook. She'd written it into her strategy 2 months ago. Target will likely compromise cover immediately to establish control. When he does, perform controlled shock response. Allow him to feel superior. This will make him confident, potentially careless, and more likely to engage directly rather than eliminate threat. Nadia closed the laptop, stood, walked to the window overlooking Itaewon's neon-lit streets. "Checkmate, Mr. Kang," she said softly, victory glinting in her dark eyes. He'd think he was hunting her now. Think he'd gained the upper hand. Think he was playing with prey that didn't know they were caught. He had no idea he'd just walked into her trap, and by the time he realized it, it would be too late. She looked at her gun, at the badge she'd earned through blood and sacrifice, at the text message glowing on her screen, Ryan Torres asking if she was okay after the gala, if her cover was intact, voice dripping with false concern. Tomorrow she'd make a choice. Play along with Ji-hun's game. Let him think he was in control. Draw him closer. Build her case. Learn his secrets. Or bring an army next time. Arrest him. Close the case. But that's not interesting, is it? She smirked, her dark eyes glinting under the moonlight. Tomorrow everything would change. Tomorrow the real game would begin. Tomorrow she'd see if Kang Ji-hun was actually as smart as everyone said, or if he was just another arrogant criminal about to learn why they called her the Hunter. If you're still with me, hit that like button right now, because what you just witnessed is only the beginning. Both thinking they're winning, both absolutely certain they're in control. Drop a comment. Who do you think is really ahead, the ghost or the hunter? Keep watching, because what happens next proves they're both right, and both completely wrong. Over the next 7 days, they circled each other like predators, each move calculated, each encounter designed, both keeping score, both convinced they were winning. The ghost thought he was playing the hunter. The hunter was letting him think that. And neither knew that the real game hadn't even started yet. Day 3. A trendy cafe in Gangnam. Nadia sat at a corner table, laptop open, files spread out. She'd been there for 6 hours, tracking financial records, building her case. Or at least, that's what it looked like. Blacktown car pulled up outside the window. Through the glass, she watched Ji-hun step out, 2 coffee cups in hand, right on schedule. She didn't look up when the door chimed, didn't acknowledge him until he was standing at her table. "You've been here since dawn," he said, setting 1 cup in front of her. "Thought you might need better coffee than whatever that is." He nodded at her cheap paper cup from 6 hours ago. Nadia looked up, face showing perfect surprise. "Mr. Kang, what are you— 2 sugars, no cream, right?" That knowing smile. "How did you—" She let concern flicker across her face. "I pay attention." He didn't sit, just stood there radiating casual confidence. "The warehouse you've been surveilling in Yongsan? It's been empty for 3 days. We moved operations. But feel free to keep watching if it makes you feel productive." He walked out before she could respond. The moment Ji-hun's car disappeared around the corner, Nadia's pleasant, concerned expression vanished. She pulled up a different file on her laptop. Photos from the empty warehouse, time-stamped from this morning. Armed guards, trucks being loaded, activity. "Lying about the warehouse being empty," she murmured, typing notes. "Which means that's exactly where I need to look. He's trying to redirect my attention." Predictable. She sipped the coffee he'd brought. Perfectly made. 2 sugars, no cream. And he's showing off. Demonstrating he knows my habits. Classic intimidation tactic. She smiled. "You're making this too easy, Ji-hun." Day 5. An art gallery in Insadong. Nadia attended an opening, following a lead on Ji-hun's smuggling operation. She stood in front of a painting. Traditional Korean landscape. Beautiful. Probably worth a fortune. It's a fake. She didn't jump at Ji-hun's voice behind her. Didn't show surprise. Just turned slowly. Excuse me? He moved beside her, close enough that she felt his warmth, smelled that cologne. The painting. It's a very good fake. The real one is in a private collection in Singapore. This is what we show the public. The pretty story that hides the worthless truth. Why are you telling me this? He looked at her, and something in his expression was different, more genuine. Because you're investigating art smuggling, and I'd hate for you to waste time on the wrong trail. And I should trust you because I'm tired of playing the same game. His voice dropped. If you want to know how we really move art, Agent Brooks, you're going to have to ask nicer than this. He started to walk away. Stopped. Looked back. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Bukchon Tea House. You know the one. Come alone or don't come at all. Then gone. She smiled the moment he was out of sight. He was inviting her into deeper access. Good. The more he showed her, the more evidence she collected. He was so confident she was falling into his trap, he didn't see she was building his cage. Day 7. The traditional tea house in Bukchon village was private, tucked away from tourist paths. Ji-hun sat at a low table already pouring tea when Nadia arrived. She had a recording device in her bracelet, a tracker in her watch, her Glock under her jacket. Every precaution. You came, he said, not looking up from the tea. I wasn't sure you would. I'm here to do a job. She sat across from him, didn't touch the tea. Really? Because you could be doing your job from your desk. Instead, you're here, alone, with the man you're supposed to arrest. He slid the tea toward her. Why do you think that is? Because you have information I need. No. He finally looked at her. Because you're curious. You've been investigating me for a week. You've seen enough to know the story doesn't add up. The perfect monster everyone describes doesn't quite match the man you're finding. You're a criminal. You've killed people. Yes, I have. No denial, no justification, just fact. I've done things that keep me awake at night. Things I'll answer for someday. But context matters, doesn't it? You killed 3 men last year in Miami. Does that make you a killer? That was different. They were self-defense, necessary, in service of a greater good. He leaned forward. Exactly what I tell myself every time I pull the trigger. So what's the difference, Agent Brooks? Intent? Authority? Or just which side of the line you're standing on? Silence fell between them. Heavy, complicated. I want to show you something. He pulled out a flash drive, set it on the table between them. On here is evidence, real evidence, of my art smuggling roots. Names, dates, transactions. Enough to arrest 12 people in my organization. Why would you give me that? Because I want you to see I'm serious, about changing things, about being more than what my father made me. He pushed the drive toward her. And because I think you're the only person who might understand what it's like to be trapped by what you've had to become. Nadia looked at the drive. At him. Back at the drive. What do you want from me? The same thing you want from me. His voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. The truth. She took the flash drive. She shouldn't have. Every rule said don't accept anything from a target. But she did. And that small choice, that moment of curiosity over caution, set in motion everything that came next. Late night. Nadia left the U.S. Embassy after a long briefing. Walsh had been grilling her about progress, suspicious about the flash drive Nadia had turned in. After making a copy for herself that no one knew about. The underground parking garage was mostly empty. fluorescent lights flickering, the smell of exhaust and concrete. Her footsteps echoing. She felt it before she saw it. That instinct. Danger. Right on schedule, she thought. The van doors opened. 3 men, black masks, guns drawn. Nadia moved before they could aim. Muscle memory from years of training. Drew her weapon, double-tapped the first. Attacker center mass, rolled behind a concrete pillar as bullets sparked off stone. No fear, no panic. Just cold, professional efficiency. The second attacker tried to flank. She caught him in peripheral vision, adjusted her aim, dropped him with a headshot. The third was smarter. Stayed behind cover, tried to wait her out. She checked her options. Exits blocked. Radio in her car, too far. This was exactly what she'd known would happen. Had planned for it, even. Because where there was an ambush, Ji-hun wouldn't be far behind. Then, gunfire from a different angle. The third attacker turned, surprised, took 3 rounds to the chest from someone else's gun. Ji-hun stepped from behind a car, weapon still raised, face cold and deadly. For a moment, they just looked at each other across the bodies and gun smoke. "Are you all right?" he asked, lowering his weapon. "I'm fine." Nadia kept her Glock trained on him. "Step away from the weapon." "Nadia, step away." He complied, hands visible but didn't look afraid. Just calm. Like he'd expected this too. "Lee Sang-ho's crew," he said, nodding at the bodies. "Rival organization. Marco Valenti's advance team. They've been watching you, waiting for an opportunity." "How did you know I'd be here?" "Because I've had my people watching you since you arrived." He took a careful step toward her. "To keep you safe from exactly this. Don't move." Her gun steady on his center mass. "On your knees. Hands behind your head." He didn't comply. Just looked at her with those dark, knowing eyes. "You knew," he said quietly, realization dawning on his face. "Tonight. The ambush. You knew it was coming." Her expression didn't change. "You used yourself as bait." His voice held something between admiration and concern. "Drew me out. Isolated me. You wanted this. Wanted me here. Alone. Where you could..." He stopped, understanding completely now. "Very clever, Agent Brooks. I underestimated you." "On your knees?" "No." "Then you die. If you can." He took another step toward her, the gun pressed against his chest now. "But you won't. Because over the past week I showed you something. Not the monster you expected. Something more complicated, and that made you doubt. Made you wonder if maybe, just maybe, I'm not the villain in this story. You're a criminal. I'm a survivor. Another step. She should pull the trigger. End this. And so are you. You've seen the files on that drive. Seen the corruption. The officials on Marco Valenti's payroll. The prosecutors who look the other way. You know the system is broken. You know I'm not the biggest threat here. Surrender. Not today." He smiled, and it was sad and sharp at once. "Not until you hear what I have to say. Not until you understand what's really happening in Seoul." Her finger on the trigger. Every training said, shoot. Every rule said, shoot. Every oath she'd taken said, shoot. But she didn't. And they both knew why. He gently pushed the gun aside. She let him. "You have questions," he said softly. "I have answers. Real answers. The complete truth about who I am, what I've done, what I'm trying to become. But not here. Not with your FBI superiors listening to every word. Where? You choose." He stepped back, adjusted his jacket like they'd just had coffee instead of a standoff. "Time and place. I'll be there, alone, unarmed. You can bring backup, weapons, whatever makes you feel safe, but come ready to actually listen." He turned. started walking away. Gun still pointed at his back. He didn't look back. Didn't need to. Nadia stood alone in the parking garage, bodies cooling around her, gun in hand. Her perfect plan had worked. She'd drawn him out, isolated him, had him at gunpoint, and didn't pull the trigger. Why? Her phone vibrated. Text from unknown number. Thank you for not shooting me. I know it wasn't easy. The offer stands. You choose where and when. Ball's in your court, Hunter. Jay. She stared at the message, and the flash drive in her pocket with evidence of corruption that went deeper than she'd imagined, at the choice ahead of her. Meet him. Listen to what he has to say. Cross every line she'd sworn never to cross. Or bring an army next time. Arrest him. Close the case. Live with the questions forever. I became the hunter to destroy monsters, she thought. But what do you do when the monster might not be the villain? When the system you swore to uphold might be worse than the criminal you're hunting? When every instinct says there's more to this story? She looked at her gun, at the bodies, at the text message glowing on her screen. Tomorrow she'd make a choice. Tonight, she just stood in the silence and wondered when hunting someone had become understanding them. And when understanding them had become the most dangerous thing she'd ever done. She had him. Gun to his chest. Every rule said pull the trigger. She didn't. And now she has to decide, meet him and risk everything or bring an army and live with never knowing the truth. Hit that subscribe button right now, because part 2 is where Nadia makes a choice that changes both of their lives forever. Drop a comment. Would you meet him alone, or would you bring backup and end this? Because what happens next? You're not ready for it. Trust me. Part 2 coming soon. Don't miss it.